from all of you and Kimmy and anyone who's had any experience in these programs to share it, because I think that's really important. If you've had experience or you've tried to use them and it didn't work, whatever it is, positive or negative or constructive, we'd love to see it. So I'll be looking at the chat for your comments. So again, just put them in. Don't think you're interrupting me. I'll get to them as I see them. And I want to have a conversation so that this makes sense for you and it can help you, make an informed decision to, help you improve your homes. So please speak up. So we're going to be talking about all the different programs available, both from anybody can use programs, and then specifically income qualified programs. I'll probably use terms like 100%, 60%, 80%, 50% area median income. And so, one thing is I try to use that term instead of talking about what it means specifically, which is typically, number of people in your home and your income, and then every year. So it changes so much based on all those, what year it is, how many people live with you, what your income is. So I try to stay away from that. If you're like, oh, well, how much do I need to be making? Like, I don't know the answer because it just keeps changing all the time. Kimmy, I hope you all have a little more of a handle on some of that and can chime in there if people need it. But I'm going to stick to talking about higher level, 80%, 100%, when I get into some of the income restricted programs. So just be aware of that. And I don't know the specific numbers off the top of my head. So,
but I do, Brett. So if anyone wants those, I have them handy.
Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, I'll defer to you then. So thank you. So program types. There's a lot of programs. Energy audits, utility assistance, utility rebates, grants, loans, loan quasi grants where they sort of give you a big loan, but then, they'll pay for half of it. Mortgages, which is a huge opportunity for that right now. We'll talk about that. Tax credits, and then paying out of pocket, and how you can use not just one of these, but many of these. So here's an example. Let's say you call up DTE and you get an energy audit, most likely free. And then from there, you're working with DTE and you're like, oh, I can access, $100, $200, $300, $400, maybe more of utility rebates because I need to do these things to improve the energy efficiency and reduce my gas usage. But then you're like, I think I've got some other issues with my home. I might meet a certain income qualification. So I'm going to call up the Kent County Action Agency. I'm going to get Weatherization. Now they're going to come in and they're going to look much more in depth, do a much more robust energy audit than DTE is. And then maybe from there they say, oh, we want to help you, but you have this other problem with your house that our program doesn't cover. You've got, a leaking roof is always a problem, and they usually they won't work on your house if you've got it. So then you go out and you find one of these grant matching loan programs where you can get $10,000 from a loan, but then a grant pays for half of it. And then you can use that to repair your roof. And then you can get the thousands of dollars from the Weatherization Action Agency, which then gets you some of the utility rebate dollars. And then a year later, you get your house repaired and then you get a tax credit. So that's just an example of called program stacking, right? So there are many programs out there and you might qualify for more than one. And so the idea is that, you can do a lot more and extend your money if you, try to use all these programs. And sometimes you need one program to help you overcome a barrier in the other one. So if anyone has, any experience with that when I'm going through these programs, I'd love to hear from you. We talk a lot about the idea, but we know in practice it's a little more difficult to achieve it because each program is, they're not necessarily working together very well, and they have different goals.
Well,
all right. So go ahead, Kimmy.
Brett, because I actually have personal experience, but it was years ago, and I don't want to try and compare apples and oranges. But with some of the neighbors that we've walked through some various programs, one thing that will prevent you from being able to get the weatherization funds is water in the basement. So every time it rains, you get like an inch of water in your basement. But if you make, say, for two people on the chart, if you make $51,000 or less, you can get that matching grant. And the project, the way they do it, it's a City of Grand Rapids program through the Housing Rehabilitation Department. And so if you need, $6,000 to fix the foundation or whatever's causing that water to come on your, into your basement, you can pay as little as $50 a month back, if that's all you can afford, or you can pay $100 a month. And that's just standard. Like, they don't want you giving them all different amounts. So it's $100 a month, but it's completely interest-free. And when you're done paying your $3,000, the other $3,000 is matched by the city. So that totals your $6,000, and you have a dry basement, which would be nice anyway, probably. So anyway, that's just an example.
Yeah, thank you, Kimmy, for sharing that. And we'll get to that program too. And so maybe you can chime in if you know more about it when we get there. But, from an energy bill savings standpoint, the first thing you might say is, okay, I feel like my energy bills are high. I'm paying a lot of money, but all you have is your bills. And sometimes consumers in DTE try to tell you, hey, you're not doing so well, or you are. And they give you, especially consumers, gives you a ton of resources with your smart meter on their website, which is great. But, both consumers and DTE only paint half of a picture of your home, right? You need to sort of assess them together to see how you're really doing. So this free tool from the EPA, Energy Star Home Energy Yardstick, it's a program you can access and you can use anytime, and it's totally free. And it needs some basic information, your zip code. You can either use how many people live in your house or how many bedrooms, how big your house is, and you can keep your address off the report for privacy. Electricity, natural gas, and then have all of your utility bills ready. Ideally, you want a whole year worth and have them in front of you, and then drop them in to both the electric and the gas side and put in all that information. And then basically it's going to spit out sort of a 0 through 10 sort of score for your house. And that's going to tell you right away if you're doing, relatively good or relatively bad. The higher, the better. And if you're lower, then oh, wow, I need to get a lot of help with my house to improve my energy bills. The other cool thing is they give you this sort of online sort of do-it-yourself checklist that you can go through, and it tells you how to look around your home and make some evaluations and figure out what you need to fix and when, and kind of put a whole project plan and repair plan together that you could work on somewhat of yourself or use a contractor, or a little bit of both. So again, that's the EPA's Home Energy Yardstick. And again, that's all free. You just need your utility bills. You need to know how big your house is. And you need to know how many people live there or how many bedrooms you have. Now, from there, you can get some more help. Consumers Energy will come in and do, if you're not comfortable, and I know things are getting a little bit, they're picking back up again. So if you're a little bit concerned, you can do a virtual audit with them. They can, walk through your house, like with your camera on, with your phone, and you can take them around. Or they're still doing the in-person assessments, and I don't see that going away. So they can send someone out. And again, don't forget, consumers is only looking at your electric bill. So don't expect them to give you any advice about gas usage. That's not what they're there for. They're only looking at your electric usage, and it's a pretty light audit. But for the most part, it's free, and so they've got that down at homeenergyanalysis.com. DTE is a little more complicated to get them to do their audits. I've got some pretty crazy links here at the bottom. On the left side is traditional home audits through partners and contractors, which is probably going to have a cost. And then on the right side, there's the limited income assistance assessments, which I think the city might be doing in partnership with the city. At least I see their name on the list. But if you go to DTE's website and then click on Save Money and Energy, you can see the two different choices between traditional energy efficiency assessments or the income qualified. And again, DTE is only looking at your gas usage, water heater, furnace. They're not looking at electric, so they're not going to give you that side of the story. But again, that's another opportunity there to get some information potentially for free.
Brett, let me interrupt you real quick. We had some new people join us. Welcome to Lindsay and Nancy and Teresa. And just want to let them know at any point, unmute yourself and ask a question. That's perfectly fine. We actually encourage that. And if you go to at the bottom where you can go to chat, Brian from our office is putting in the links that you can click on that Brett is talking about, which is really nice. Thanks, Brian. And we're just going to keep going. Thank you.
Yeah. And if you're shy, I'm watching the chat too, so I'll answer your question there. I know some people don't want to speak up, so. Okay, so, if you want a comprehensive assessment of your house, we will help out with that. So there's a link there at greenhomeinstitute.org/home energy score. And so, we're going to be coming in and we're going to be looking at a whole menu of things. And so, we're going to be looking at many of the features of your home on the bottom of the list there, which are things that you can't change. And then we're going to be looking at the infrastructure of your house, the foundation, your windows, insulation. We're going to do blower door testing where we can see how leaky your home is. We're going to look at your heating and cooling and water heating systems, your duct leakage, what kind of shape they're in, taking a look at your lighting and appliances, and maybe even have a conversation about your behavior, which ultimately, doesn't impact your energy use too much. The deck is really stacked against you. If you're in a home that's not performing well, there's really little you can do. It's not your fault. It's almost like if someone gave you a car that had 10 miles per hour per gallon and told you to get 30 out of it. It's impossible, right? So it's the same with a home. If your energy bills are high, it's really not your fault. You can't control how heat moves through the walls. It's such a small part. So we're going to help figure out all of these things and where you can make the most improvement. So there's a question here about homeowners and tenants. And that's a great question. And as I'm going through all of these, you're absolutely right. There are differences between whether you own the home or whether you rent your home. And in some cases, if you go to your landlord and you say, hey, I want to look at this, they'll just throw you out, right? I mean, I'm being a little extreme, but a lot of times they don't want to hear any problems, right? They think their housing is great. And no offense to those of you who are landlords, but and if you are here, I welcome you and want to work with you. There are a lot of great landlords that we work with as well, but it can be nerve-wracking to go to them and tell them that there's an issue. But absolutely, these programs, they do have different impacts whether you rent or not. And a lot of times you're not going to want to invest your own money into your landlord's property. So it's really up to them to determine if they want to do this kind of stuff. But there are a lot of resources for them if there's someone you can talk to and trust and say, hey, look, if you improve your property, it helps all of us. It helps you get a better property and it helps me while I'm here. So you do have to kind of look at each of these programs and figure it out. So I'm glad you brought that up. And I'll try to differentiate on some of these if I do know the difference between if it has to be rental versus home ownership. So thanks for bringing that up. Anyway, so we're going to look at all these items, and we offer this, whether you, and all these other ones we talked about, consumers, DTE, all this stuff. This is both for homeowners or renters. So we're gonna give your house an assessment. And it's basically going to say, here's how you're performing now. Here's what we think your utility costs are now. Here's what they could be if you make some improvements, and we like break down your energy use for you through something called the Department of Energy Home Energy Score. And we come up with sort of a repair order on what needs to be fixed and how much money it could save you a year. And then ideally try to tie it back into what kind of resources and programs are available to help fund this kind of work. And then also we come in and look at things beyond energy. We're going to look at ventilation, which is huge right now. We all have, there's lots of bad stuff in the air. And so we need to make sure our homes are ventilating and filtering right to keep us safe, even more than ever. Water leaks, water bills are going up. And so if water's leaking into your home, it's rotting your house, causing mold issues, and it's wasting you money. So it's like a, double hit. Radon, Kent County's in sort of a mid-level for radon, and that's the second cause of lung cancer. So we're going to test for that. Moisture issues, gas leaks, all those things. We're looking at more than energy conservation within our inspection. And then, even, we're handing out, if you can achieve all these things, we are certifying homes to a GreenStar program, which can increase the value of your home and make it better for resale, and all that. And also what we are offering is our assessments do cost $300, and there's not much we can do about that right now. But if you are income qualified, 100% AMI or lower, and you can achieve GreenStar certification, we will pay that, we'll give that money back as a rebate to you if you can achieve these results, and try to work with you with some of these programs, after you get your audit done to figure out, hey, how can I improve my home's health, energy efficiency, and get it certified green? And then we'll, pay the cost back that it costs to audit your house back to you for achieving it. So it is a little bit of a risk, and our funds are limited, but that's one new thing that we wanted to offer. Now, if you still want a full assessment and can't afford the $300, Kimmy's going to talk a lot more about this at 7:30, so stick around. But the Kent County Community Action Agency does have funds from the federal government doled out to the state, where they are mandated to come in, if you're income qualified, I believe it's 80% AMI, and do a full assessment, mostly covering all the things we just talked about that we do. And, they first, you have to, contact them, get a hold of them, and then get through their list of questions that they want to ask you. If you can pass their test of their list of questions, they'll come out and do an initial assessment of your house, and then determine that if there is a problem, like Kimmy had mentioned, if you've got water in the basement or a roof leak or something that's going to stop them from doing their energy efficiency work, they'll defer you and say, hey, find some money to pay for that work. Then we'll come back and we'll help you out. And so, they've got, I think, up to $10,000 is kind of the number I use. It goes back and forth every year, of funds available for health, safety, and energy efficiency measures. So highly encourage you to email them, call them, and just say, hey, please put me on the list to reach out. Because again, if it's a concern of upfront costs, theirs is free once you get through their program, and it's a pretty full assessment with somebody who's specialized in how your home performs, way more above and beyond what the utilities companies do. So.
And they even do a post assessment. After the contractors come in, they do a very thorough check to make sure everything was installed properly, and everything is just like spot on. I don't know that much about the technical aspects of putting in hot water heaters and such, but if a hot water heater is malfunctioning, you can get carbon monoxide poisoning. So, that's something that these assessments test for as well, which is really important to know. So.
Yeah, I know. Thanks for
chat the weatherization eligibility, because it's not 80% AMI, it's 60%. There's also.
Oh, thank you for correcting me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. Everyone has a different well, they're not even they're as close to 60% as you can get, but they're actually 200%.
Right. They follow the 200% federal poverty. Yep. Yep.
Correct.
So yeah, there's a whole other term. There's federal poverty guidelines. 200% is another way to look at the same numbers. So, yep. So Kimmy was alluding to this program, the housing rehabilitation program through the city of Grand Rapids. This is, from what I can tell, a sort of, you pay half, they'll pay the other half once you've paid them back, right, Kimmy? So if you did $12,000 in a program and paid $6,000, they would pay off the other $6,000. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. So I understand correctly, they also will do an evaluation of your home. Do you know anything about that, Kimmy, or have you seen that?
I don't know exactly. I think they're more just there, like if you had someone, a contractor come in and give you an estimate, and then you can go to them, and if you're, under 80% of the area median income, then you can get that. It's a 0% loan. Right. And you can pay it back, for 50 or $100. 100 standard. You have to be like a special, way on the lower income level to get the $50 a month. But yeah, there's no interest, and they say they give you help determining what repairs are needed. And they will recommend contractors and such, but they don't do, as far as I know, a full assessment. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It seems like they do some sort of review, but, and $150 a month, I mean, put it into this way, you might say, well, that's a lot. Well, you theoretically, depending on what shape your home is in, it's not too much of a stretch that on average you could save 50 to 100 in your utility bills. So, yeah, you're still, so in theory, you haven't really saved any money until the loan is paid off, and then it's all money saved, and you're more comfortable, you're healthy, and you have a more valuable home, right? And so, these are the kinds of things, if we can make these improvements, we can increase value in homes. So there's a lot of benefits to that. So reach out to the city. There's that contact information there. Again, can't hurt to just give them a call and ask. And that's a 80%, or at least looks like under 80% AMI, I guess. So 79%, hopefully. And then our friends over at Home Repair Service, you can go to their website, and they got this cool little calculator on their website, which I think is fantastic. And so you can check a box whether you own your home, whether you're 60 or older, and then it sort of tells you what services are available or not from there. They've got a lot of different services. They've got a Repair My Home service. They've got Remodel Together, where you guys work on it together, which might not sound too appealing right now. And then they've got a home accessibility, if you have accessibility issues accessing your house. And then they used to have all these hands-on trainings. Obviously, that's going to be shelved for a little while. But go to their website, and I know they do home energy efficiency improvements, and they come in and do an evaluation of your home. I know they've been doing a lot of fantastic work. So Kimmy, I don't know if you've seen anyone in your community have any success with them or not, but. People, a lot of people don't report back to us after we get them some help. So we don't always follow up like we like we'd like to, and find out, how it went. So I can't give you an example on that one. That's okay. And I wanted to show you, this is their income bracket level, and they have resources for people even beyond low income. I mean, they give you education and training to the extent they can virtually these days. They do home maintenance checkups and finance coaching and fix-it workshops. I think some of it virtually now. And actually, they are doing in-person lunch and learns. At least I saw in their last newsletter. So if you're brave enough to do that, then it might be available to you. So anyway, this is sort of a snapshot. There's some different, if you're 60 or over, they give you some different things depending on your income. And then if you want a furnace replaced, it looks like, again, depending on your income. So Kimmy, you can, this is on their website, you can see it, but I know they do energy efficiency work. So. And it's only for homeowners.
Good point. Yeah.
And you really need to look at the chart, because if you or someone you know is over 60, you can have a fairly high income level in this particular program. If you're not a renter, you have to be
Right.
home. So.
And it looks like they'll do the furnace repair on the higher side too, is what, at least what I'm reading here. So this was a year old, and
Right. People need their heat. They
right.
can't freeze to death. So
Right.
that one thing, but like if you need a roof, or you need a
Yeah.
handicap ramp built outside your home, it's those kinds of things are the, over and under age 60. They're not going to do get rid of your asbestos,
Right.
For example, but
Right.
they do have a lot of ways to help folks with such stuff that's not that really complicated as
Right.
asbestos removal.
Now, keeping on the agencies who offer both assessments and money, so we're still in sort of the agency assessment and money, you've got our friends at the Healthy Homes Coalition. Now, this is for people with kids 0 to 5 who live in, have income qualified and have, concerns about asthma, concerns about healthy home issues, concerns about lead in their house, not in their water, I don't believe, but in their house, which is, believe it or not, a worse issue than in the water. And so again, another agency, they're not going to come in and look at your energy conservation, but they are going to look at some of the potential health issues you might be having in your house. And again, we always want to make sure we're talking both about saving money in your energy bills and being healthy, which can happen at the same time. So again, I know that they have a lot of great resources if you have kids and you have concerns or potential health issues, to fix some of these.
And that one, Brett, just to pipe in, that is an 80% area median income. So if you've got 4 people in the household and you don't make more than $64,000, and you got kids, that are infants or up to age 5, these people are wonderful to work with. And, people used to talk about lead contamination because I think they thought kids that got lead poisoning were people, parents that didn't care, and the kids were walking around eating paint chips. That's what I always heard. Oh, kids eat paint chips and they get lead poisoning. They don't eat the paint chips. It's because every time you open or close a window or open or close a door, if there's lead paint, it rubs the paint and creates lead dust. And the thing about lead dust, most people know lead is heavy. So lead dust sinks. And so then it's on the floor, and then the kids, toys roll on the floor, and you can't even clean it unless you use certain kinds of cleaners. So you're out there swiffering and thinking you're making your floor looks like it glows, and you still have lead dust contaminating your children's toys. That's what they put in their mouth, is their toys, or, the box of raisins they're sucking on instead of eating the raisins themselves. So anyway, it's a great program, and you should, anything we tell you about these programs, you don't have to memorize it or anything, but you can think you talk to a neighbor and they're like, oh, I'm worried about my house. I got all this weird peeling paint. It's probably lead. Send them the Creston Neighborhood Association, because we know about all these programs. You don't have to call Healthy Homes if you don't remember the name.
Yeah. And not even weird peeling paint. Is your house pre-1978? Do you know if anyone's fixed it? If not, then you should, look into this. I mean,
thank you, Brett, for correcting me on that.
I mean, that's, you don't even want to wait till it starts peeling. Maybe you can get ahead of it, hopefully. So, yeah.
Yeah. Because we have a huge number of houses in Grand Rapids built before, when they were still using lead paint products.
Yeah. So the utility companies, again, they do their assessments, and then they let you know about all their rebates available. And the rebates on the non-income qualified side, they're minor, they're minuscule, they're maybe $1,000, and they do get better. On the income qualified side, I mean, there's roughly potentially up to $10,000, maybe We're waiting for the new 2021 numbers to come out, $15,000. Now, again, there has to be more things you need to fix for there to be more money. So it's depending on how bad your house is, then there's more money to fix those issues. And many times, some of this stuff is dollar per dollar. So we've had cases where people were income qualified, 80%, I believe, for the utilities. Correct me if I'm wrong there. 80% AMI. But, a water heater was in disrepair. And in many cases, they came back and were able to pay for the contractor and pay for the product. And, it covered the whole cost of the system. Furnaces, maybe half of the cost, even more in some cases. Air sealing and insulation gets a little bit harder because it just depends on so many things, so many variables. And so it's a little more of an expensive one, but also, huge impact on your utility bills if you can fix that. Obviously windows, they're so expensive, but they can be repaired. So these are all programs that if you get those assessments done from the utility companies, or work with us, or work with home repair services, or work with the county, and I think even to some extent the city, this can be merged on top of those things to help pay for them, to sort of what we call buy them down, those other programs. And there has been some success with that. Or you can just use these on their own and not worry about those other programs. So there's a lot here, and it's really subjective to your house and your income qualification. So, and Kimmy, are you all partners of either of those agencies or no?
I am definitely working in tandem with the Kent County Community Action Agency, which does the weatherization program.
Okay, but you're not utility rebate partners, right?
No, no, I didn't know you were asking about that specifically.
Yeah. And then, to the tax side, right? There's, you can get, for doing a lot of this work, you can get $500 back from the federal government for energy efficiency in your taxes. It's only allowable one time. So, let's say you weatherized a home and then moved, you couldn't get this money on the next home. It's a really silly thing, because you would think you could get it per home and not, once. But anyway, $500, up to $500 for qualified energy efficiency assessments as a tax credit from the IRS. And then if you really want to go in depth, which, I know is a lot, but if you were considering solar or using geothermal energy or ground source heat pumps to replace your furnace, there is a 26% tax credit available through the end of 2022, and most likely will be renewed. So again, this is really advanced stuff, but if you fix all the other items and you want to do this too in your project, there is some money for it. So, Kimmy, are you all working with Mercantile on this, or have you seen any success here on their Fix It program?
No, I haven't been working with them.
Okay. I know that you're supposed to work with a community organization, be referred by one. So I know that they're trying to give out, more affordable loans to people, and that's one of their goals. I haven't followed up to see how successful they've been, but if you can't get the grants, or you need more money than the grants, I do know that they are trying to help. So if anybody's interested, you can contact me too, and I can put you in touch with them and see if if this is something that can help you out. So shifting a little bit of gears here to going into a new home, which I know there's nothing available anymore, but if you do find yourself shifting into a new home, this is a little bit less on the energy efficiency side, just more in general. But typically, if you can upgrade to a newer home or a more repaired home, that is more energy efficient. It's going to save you energy, be healthier. So Inner City Christian Federation is providing a 4-to-1 match. So basically, if you can save $1,000 and your income qualified, 100% area median income or lower, so a little bit higher, if you can save $1,000 towards a down payment towards a new home, they'll match the other 5,000. So they'll give you pretty much $4,000. So this is available all of Kent County, it looks like. And so check that out if you're trying to make that transition from an older home to a different home or a newer home. And we're in talks with them about using it for new construction, but I know that's, that's very difficult to do these days with the costs being so high. And again, the Michigan Down Payment Assistance Program. So this used to be a grant. Now it's a loan. And I think probably for again, if you're moving into Creston or want to move around Creston, it's around $7,500 loan to help you access your first time home from the state. So, and then, so if you're buying a new home and want a mortgage, or more to you who are in your current homes and you haven't refinanced yet, right now home values are going through the roof, and interest rates are still bottomed out. So, I'm going to tell you this from my own personal recent story, that I owned a home for about 3 years, and then I refinanced my mortgage, and I was able to do advanced energy efficiency improvements to my house, and I'm still waiting for my loan to close, but it actually looks like I'm going to pay no more for my mortgage, even with pouring in tons of money on energy efficiency. I'm going to pay no more for my mortgage and cut my energy bill in half. And so I was looking at doing this last year, and 2019, and I ran into a problem that slowed me down. Even then, I was adding like maybe an additional $100 a month to my mortgage payment, but still cutting my energy bills way more. So there's a program, and I've been working with United Bank on this one, and so it's called the Green Choice Mortgage, and what it basically allows you to do is borrow additional money to do advanced energy efficiency savings on your house, either whether you're buying a new home or you're doing a refinance. So it gives you a little bit of extra money to save a little more energy. You can also go the traditional construction loan route, which is actually what I ended up doing because I wanted to do more energy efficiency improvements that I still couldn't make the numbers work with this one. And so if you do a construction loan, you got to do a little more project management, or you might need to find a project manager like a builder, or someone who's done remodeling before. But right now is a great opportunity, because if you're in a house and you've got high utility bills and you haven't refinanced in a while, I bet you anything, you could cut your utility bills in half, improve your health, and not increase your mortgage a cent more, because homes values have skyrocketed and interest rates have went down. And I don't know how long we're going to be living in this world. And I know it has all sorts of other negative consequences, so hopefully not long. But that's where we're at now. And so look at it visually. Like, imagine on the left side here, you're paying $800 a month in your mortgage, and you're paying, on average, I know it goes up and down through the winter and the summer, but on average, you're paying $300 in your utility bill. And then you do a green mortgage, or you do a construction loan, and you do advanced energy efficiency. Now, all of a sudden, you're paying more in your mortgage, but you're paying $200 less in your utility bill, right? So this is total cost of living. On the left, you have to factor in your utility bills in how much it costs you to live in your house. And so you drop that, you have a more valuable home, you have a more comfortable home. This also, for me, improved health issues and water quality issues in my house. And so I got all that, there's no dollar savings to being more healthy. I just feel better because I'm working here, all the time. And I can breathe better, and it's safer. And so, this is something you can do if you have this opportunity, or maybe your landlord, you want to work with them to do it if they want to do it. But I highly encourage it. With the way things are right now, you have to act fast. You can even use this to finance solar and probably come out ahead. I mean, I would argue that you'll probably get an immediate return on investment if you use this for solar with the way things are right now, if solar works on your house. So any credit union can do this, any bank can do this. I just know that I personally, when I was looking at the Green Choice program, I was really appreciative of United Bank, who actually was, from what I can tell, the first bank in the state to take this program on. They now have it available, and you can reach out to them. They're in Grand Rapids, they're local, and they can help you out with it, which is specifically focused on, energy conservation and energy efficiency. And again, if you're looking on the financing side, not going to be able to use the mortgage route, our friends at Michigan Saves, I personally used them several years ago. They have unsecured interest, unsecured credit, mediocre to higher interest, up to 15-year terms. I think they're even going up to 20-year terms soon, maybe even on solar. And so again, all, up to 150 different things you can improve in your house. And you can use this in tandem with other programs, with grant programs, with utility bill programs. And they have been financing energy conservation all across the state, helping thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people be able to achieve these goals. And they do, I believe, have a special income qualified program, though I'll say most of their work is more on the market rate side. But as their terms get better and better, if you've got a lot of energy efficiency work that you need to do, you might find that it's, a pretty good value to, from the loan that you have to pay back versus the savings. So, you can check them out at michigansaves.org. A lot of contractors, if you call them through Michigan Saves, they'll come out and do free evaluations and assessments in hopes of, getting your business, of course. So. And now these programs, again, they're not necessarily energy efficiency, but you can use it for that. And some of these are very focused. So Senior Neighbors has a very, very niche program for senior veterans, and they're senior veterans. So you have to be both senior 60 plus veteran, and they will give funds to help repair your home, which it can be, I talked to them, energy efficiency, and can be used, with those other programs. So that's over at, seniorneighbors.org. And they've got other resources on there too. Recently, is my understanding that if you need rental assistance or you need utility bill assistance, contact the Kent County Salvation Army right away. This is brand new news as of this morning, from what I can tell. And this is the COVID Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Can it be used for energy efficiency? I'm not so sure, but if you're struggling to pay your bills, you're probably not thinking about energy efficiency, or your friends that you might be struggling to pay their bills. So, get here right away. This is some brand new information, both on rental and utility bill assistance. And then our friends at Consumers Energy now want to help you. This is a separate program, help you pay off your super expensive winter bills. I don't know if DTE is going to follow suit. Obviously, most of this is gas related. And so, if you have higher electric bills over the winter that you couldn't afford, they may be able to help you out, and there might be something from DTE. But again, there is all these assistance programs coming down the line. And so, obviously get your bills paid first, and then hopefully you can focus on, all right, the next step of doing all these energy efficiency items together. So, I've got about some time for questions. Again, I'm Brett Little, program manager here, greenhomeinstitute.org. We're kind of just here thanks to the Weggy Foundation to do education and awareness on all these available programs. We can help in some regards as far as doing assessments and evaluations. But, I know we're very limited in how many actual physical assessments we can do. But as far as providing education and resources, we're here to help. So let me know if you've got any questions. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in.
And let me just pipe in, Brett, that with these new programs coming through, that I saw that one was dated at 6 p.m. yesterday about consumers' energy and tens of millions of dollars. You don't have to try and keep track of all of that stuff. Just call 211. We have that on every flyer that we go door to door with, is if you need help with paying your rent or your utilities, or you're facing eviction, you got to call 211, because we can just barely keep up, and we pay really close attention because we like to put these things in our newsletters and all that. But it's really hard these days, and something can slip past us. So every organization like has a connection with 211, and they feed them the information and say, okay, now if someone needs utilities assistance, tell them to call this number at the Salvation Army. Or now if they need this, you know, call this office through Kent County. But 211 is fantastic, and they're keeping track of all of that. So thank goodness. Even the food pantries, you know, they keep changing. Last, you know, now they're on, families can go twice a month to pick up food pantry food, because they were down to once a month for a little while there. But I'll be quiet because Brett said he's going to take questions. I just thought I'd give people a little time in case they needed to formulate their question. So does anyone have any questions? I don't know why, but I have just like the first slide and you on my screen, Brett. How do I get like back to before you pulled this up, before you pulled this present? Oh, much better.
We do have a list of all these programs. I will admit the list is not, it's not exactly friendly. It's not a friendly list. We're working on making it, you know, bringing it to the web and making it really nice to use. But it is available. It is open source. We update it every time programs change, or numbers change in programs or availability. We try to keep it as up to date as we can. So I'm going to post a direct link to it, and you know that link will be where it lives online until we get it on our website, or until the state puts it up, or the county. You know, we're not really sure who's gonna be managing it if we do something, but you can always keep that from our Dropbox. You can keep it, and you can always reference it later and see if there's anything new there. And you can sort it by, you know, your income, and then a couple other things on what you're trying to accomplish. So. I don't think I see any questions, Kimmy. So maybe you can start, and people can get to their lives. So.
Sure. No, I do want to just ask if we have a real live example. I'm talking to you, Gloria, because I know your daughter and her husband just moved to Grand Rapids. Have they talked at all about getting some help at their new place to get it checked out, to see, you know, how energy efficient it is, or even just getting some rehab work done? Because I know you said that your son-in-law is very handy, but
yeah, no, they haven't even gotten that far yet. It was
Okay.
such a mess just trying to find a house in Grand Rapids that wasn't
right, taken.
that wasn't taken, or you didn't have to bid like $1 zillion over. So just finding one that picks up. But Brett, I really thank you for all the information, because I got a lot of this down to share with them.
Good.
Yeah.
Because, you know, especially something, I mean, even if you can get like a 0 interest loan for work that's got to get done, I mean, that's nice. I did that for my mom for her house, because about 12 years ago, maybe it was 11 years ago, they had a program through the West Michigan Environmental Action Council. And if you were a senior, they would come and do, you know, the same thing that Brett was talking about. They come and do an energy assessment, and then they kind of give you a menu of items. And a lot of times what people think is like, oh, it's drafty in here, it's my windows. Well, sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. As it turns out, there was no insulation between the wall and the outside of the house. So they blew all that in, and they blew it up in the attic, and they did a bunch of stuff. And it was the same kind of idea. I actually paid, she had to take out the loan because it was her house, but I just sent the money to the bank every month. And it was literally $101.64. And I'm almost done paying that off. So that would be 12 years. And that just wasn't too much. Well, it was a little hardship for a while there. I've had times where I haven't made a whole lot of money, but that being said, I just think there's some nice options out there, and I like the way that you presented it, Brett. But I love to keep the show moving along. So if anyone else doesn't pipe up with a question, we are going to slide into talking about some of the nuances of the weatherization program, because we don't run this program, but we've been referring a lot of people to this program. And I just want to kind of share some experiences and what I've learned, or what we've learned, especially Brian. So Brian, you're going to want to pipe in because he's talked to a whole lot of people. So no more questions. Fine and dandy. Brett, if you wanted to stay on for a minute or two, you're welcome to, or you can just like go be with your family. I heard the children's behind that wall a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I'm going to head out, but if anyone has any questions, something comes up, my contact information, I'm going to put it in the chat.
You know, I failed at one of my jobs.
What's that?
I wanted everyone, and we had new people come in, to put your contact information and send it to Brian. If you go and click on, actually it's Creston Neighborhood Host. That's Brian. And he just needs to record, you know, we need documentation about who participated for our grant report. Because we're also getting money from the Weggy Foundation. They fund a lot of things just to get, you know, we're looking at not making so much greenhouse gas and helping the planet while we're doing all this other work that makes us and our families safer and healthier and more comfortable. So that's all good. I mean, I talked to a fella today, but you can bow out, Brett. Go on. I talked to a fella today.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Brett. He lives with his 97-year-old grandmother and his uncle. And his uncle has COPD, which is a terrible lung condition. And it sounds like they income qualify, but I couldn't hear him and he had to go do something. So we're planning to talk tomorrow morning together. But, you know, it's possible with someone with COPD that the weatherization program, since they income qualify, will put in air conditioning for them. So it's kind of all, and that's one of the things I want to talk about, that this weatherization program is kind of hard to get your arms around, because every home is different. And they get two different pots of funding. One pot comes from the state, one pot comes from the federal government, and the federal government is going to be contributing a lot more millions of dollars into our Kent County program. So this is not just Grand Rapids, this is for anyone in Kent County. So this program is run by the Kent County, Brett was kind of abbreviating it there, but it's the Kent County Community Action Agency. And so basically, if you're interested in that, it's very important to look and see what the income levels are. And we will be very diligent at Creston Neighborhood Association to help get the word out if those income levels change. because they may be taking into account for this next round of money that hasn't been, it's been allocated, but it hasn't like gone out. So, Kent County doesn't have the money in the bank yet. So they can't hire contractors to come out and fix, someone's furnace if it's, if they don't have the money yet. So we'll do our best to stay on top of that. And we have several Facebook pages. If you go on Facebook, we're working very hard to improve our website. But everyone can get our e-newsletter. And we're going to start sending out the newsletter, basically a full version and then sort of an update. So those will come once a month, and then, so you'll get 2 a month if you sign up on our website, and that's real easy. If you'll post that, Brian, in the chat, it's just crestongr.com, and you just scroll to the bottom of the homepage, and it's like, sign up to get the e-newsletter. And then you will definitely be kept informed. Because, those Facebook pages are kind of hit or miss. It's like it says posted, and then you look the next day and it's like, there's all these like 40 postings that you have to look through to find it already. So there you go. If you don't get our newsletter, that will be very helpful to keep up on these things. But so it's critical that you meet the income eligibility. And at that point, our beautiful relationship ends, or is at least temporarily you are transferred, because the Creston neighborhood doesn't run the program. We just try and find people that need to be connected to this opportunity. And then we get you over to that county agency. And so we've been doing this really, like putting in a lot of hours since basically last fall, and we've learned a lot. And one of the things we've learned is that there's some sort of issue at the county, and some people, it's taking a very long time, in my opinion, way too long, but I don't know all the circumstances, for people to get a return phone call or email from them. If you reach out, because that's what I tell everyone, because that's what they told me to say. If I make sure you income qualify, so you're not wasting your time. And then you need to get a hold of the lead person there is Kimberly. And so I've been really trying to find out, like, well, what's the best way to communicate? And she has said, email is just easier for her, because if she's having to make a lot of phone calls, someone else might call her while she's trying to leave a message for someone else, and then she misses the other call. And then it's just, phone tag. But an email is very easy for her to go to and respond to. And so that's apparently the best way to communicate. But I'm getting reports because I've asked, just people to volunteer to stay in contact with us. And so if they call, Kimberly, I tell them, like, well, in about, 2 or 3 weeks, if you don't hear back from her, why don't you let me know? Or with email. She said that the most recent meeting, which was now about a week and 2 days ago, that she takes about a week to a week and a half to respond to an email. That's how kind of far behind she is. And it takes her more like 3 weeks and possibly longer to return a phone call. So that's kind of number one, is to make sure that if anyone who's on this Zoom, because no one called in from a phone, that's the best thing to do, is email her. And if you want, you can blind copy me. That's when you're like making it, well, some people don't know. Blind copy is the one that says BCC. So there's like the person that you send it to, sometimes you want someone else to get it, even if it's not really directed at them. That's CC, carbon copy. And then BCC is blind carbon copy. And then that would go to me or Brian. And we can kind of track. And so we know for a fact, like you sent her an email on March 1st and you haven't heard anything by March 29th. That's way longer than a week to a week and a half. And so I kind of want to know those specific examples because I'm trying to, not just assess, but let's sort of fix the situation. So everyone can get, these monies that are available. So I'm going to stop there for a second. I have to click on my refresh to make sure nobody is trying to get, okay. I just wanted to make sure no one else, that was kind of the final call that wants to get on this weatherization.
We had a new person join, Linda.
We
So.
did. That's fabulous. Linda G, welcome. Are people sending you their contact information, Brian?
I've
In the
got
chat,
one.
It just goes to you. Not one?
Joshua, yep.
Oh, good, good. So Linda, welcome. We're talking about the weatherization program, and please feel free at any time to unmute yourself and say, hey, I have a question. And I've already gone through a certain amount of information, so I'm just going to kind of stop and make sure the other participants don't have anything to ask about that I was just reviewing for them. Okay, I'm going to keep going.
Oh, how do you get a hold of Brian to give him your information? And
Yep.
then 2, what's Kimberly's email?
Yes. Brian, if you'll post your email address again, or maybe for the first time. And then
I think she is asking, you can, if you go to the chat.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And then you can change to a direct message to me. If you're asking to send your contact information.
Nancy, do you know where your little chat thing is? It's muted again. You're muted again, Nancy.
Yeah, sorry, that's the first time I'm using this particular
Hey, I'm
one.
going to walk you through it because believe me, I have technical problems day and night.
Okay.
So once you hit chat, you're going to see things come up usually on the right-hand side, and the bottom one will be to send a new message. And right now it should say everyone. And if you just click on that arrow, you go like, oh, there I am, Nancy M. And if you go up to Creston Neighborhood and it says host and click on that, then you can type a direct message to Brian. So it's just in case you don't feel like putting your information out for other folks to see, no one can see that except Brian to put you in our system. So we know, how many people participate.
Yeah, it's not doing that. I'm on my phone, so I don't know if that makes a difference.
That makes a difference,
Okay.
Nancy. I'm so sorry. I didn't ask you that.
No, that's okay.
Nancy, just send me an email. Didn't I email you the information?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Just send me an email and I'll take care of that and make sure
Okay.
we can count you. So this is Kimberly's.
Thank you.
Did you, Nancy, can you see the chat and can you see the email for Kimberly?
I could for just a minute and now it's back down again. So if it could get back up.
Oh, maybe it just shows it for a second.
Yeah. So I will have Kimmy, when I send her my information, she can maybe send Kimberly's information.
Absolutely not a
There we go.
problem, Nancy.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
GOV. Okay. Brian and I both sent that. So now that's good. It's been there twice. Okay, where am I? So I can see what I look like when I'm talking. So then I want to just set up some expectations for people so you know kind of what the process is. So you do finally get an email or a phone call back from Kimberly. She's going to ask you another series of questions to make sure you can be in the program. And those are, a lot of them are just related to the safety of your home and of the person coming to do a an assessment. They call it a pre-assessment, but we'll explain that. So they want to make sure you don't have any asbestos. They want to make sure you have updated electrical system. If you look in your basement and you look at some of the wires and they have these weird little ceramic, they're kind of like knobs. That's a very old system, and you should probably see if you can get someone to update it, because they won't do anything in a basement with that kind of electrical system. They will also not help you if they come to the door and there is a dog they perceive as scary or dangerous that's barking at them through the door. So when you get things set up with Kimberly and when the person's coming to check your house out, you need to make sure that that is not a problem with a pet. And even if it's some little, I shouldn't say that. Oh, I get a little snarky toward the evening. Even if it's just a small dog that doesn't seem very intimidating, you never know. Like my mom loves dogs, and she would pet a dog the size of a pony if she knows it's like a nice dog, but she had got bit once and she's terrified of any dog that comes up to her and she doesn't know if it's going to bite her. So, some people are like that. So you've got to make sure that any pets like that are under control. But Kimberly's going to walk you through this list. It's quite lengthy, and I don't want to just keep reading a list. But if you have some of those things, like you can look in your basement and see if you have those wires with the little ceramic guys on it. Then those are things that have to be taken care of. And like Brett and I were talking at the beginning, and not all of you were there right at the beginning, but we were talking about water in the basement or a roof that's leaking. They don't want to put, and this is also like the health and not the health and safety of just the assessor, which would be the case with things like asbestos, but it's also that if your roof is leaking and they put insulation up in there on the inside, that water can make the insulation wet, and then you could have, yay, a mold problem. So they don't want to do anything that's going to be, damaging to the health of the household. So that's why they have some of these rules about they won't do it until you fix this, that, or the other thing. So that's kind of step 2 with Kimberly. And it might not be Kimberly. I mean, I don't really understand it, but I think sometimes she has another person that helps her make these calls and do this. This is called it's the screening process. So then someone comes to your house to do what they call the pre-assessment. And that's the person that will be checking if there's carbon monoxide coming out of anywhere, but typically it's a faulty water heater that causes that. They will check to see how old your furnace is, how well it's running. They've got all kinds of, equipment and such. See how much air is leaking through your windows. See if, even just putting a new door in, because there might be like a lot of air leaking around the door. And cold is weird. Like sometimes you think there's a lot of air and it's just not that much. So they may do an assessment and you may think, boy, I really need new windows. I hate my windows. They're hard to roll up and down. And I can feel the cold air coming through in the winter. But part of what's required of the Kent County program staff is that they don't just get a big pot of money and they can do whatever they want to make your house more energy efficient. This is money that comes from the federal government, from the Department of Energy, and they have their own stipulations. Well, one of them is that a staff person with the county has to do an ROI. They have to do oh my God. What is it called, Brian? A return on investment. There's two ROIs. There's another ROI in my life. But this is a return on investment. So they'll look and they'll calculate, okay, with this much square footage of this many windows, if they were replaced, it would cost, pick a number, $5,000. And if they're only going to save $10 a month on their energy bill, it's not necessarily worth our federal government, our taxpayer money paying $5,000 to get those windows put in if there's not a very good return on investment. It doesn't save that much energy. It doesn't save that much money. So you may have your own perceptions of what needs to be done. Like last apartment I lived in the winter, it was absolutely freezing in this apartment and I couldn't believe it. And I would touch the wall finally and go, it was absolutely ice cold. It was like going on my front porch and touching the wall. And there wasn't even, I don't think, space between the brick that was on the outside of the house and the plaster that was on the inside of the house. So to me, I thought, well, these, my landlords who I really liked, they lived next door and they were really nice. And they're just like, well, Kimmy, what we'd have to do is put insulation and make the apartment smaller by putting insulation on the inside of the house, because there's no place to squirt insulation between, there's no drywall and then space where the joints are, and then the outside wall, because that's very typical of homes. And then you just drill a hole and you squirt all this insulation in there. But that wasn't an option at the apartment I was at. It was just solid. So they would have had to build out and make the apartment small. Anyway, so every house is different. And, perception is reality, and your reality may be, I think this needs to get done. But the real reality of this kind of funding coming from the government is that there's hoops that have to be jumped through that your assessor will do, or the guy that looks at the assessment and decides what's the most they can do on your house to save you the most money. But of course, they're going to prioritize everything that's the most healthy. So if you've got a messed up furnace or hot water heater or some other thing, they're going to really focus on that. And for some reason, if they determine that you have an energy inefficient refrigerator, you have to take the new refrigerator that they will offer you. And for some reason, but Kimberly has told me this, more than once, and I've written it down. I know this is true. If you just don't want a new refrigerator, you happen to like your old refrigerator, you cannot participate in the program if you do not get the new refrigerator. So, I don't, even Kimberly is not quite sure why. So it's just part of this federal government stuff that gets handed down, and they go like, okay, everyone gets a new refrigerator if their other one's, energy inefficient, whether they want one or not. So then they've done a pre-assessment. They've taken the numbers and all the data that they've collected at your home back to the office at Kent County Community Action Agency. Roger, or one of his people that works with him, does the return on investment, the ROI, and figures out, okay, I need to hire a contractor I just need a repair on the furnace. We don't need a new furnace. It's just got a little problem. We need a new hot water heater. We need a new refrigerator. We need insulation, and we need pipes wrapped. So then they hire a contractor. You don't have to pay for any of this. They hire a contractor, and then they let you know when the contractor is coming. So basically, as far as I know, and I'm trying to get a little more information about this now from a woman that's kind of bird dogging this with me. She had her pre-inspection today, and she's just giving me like real time how all this works. So then they'll say, like, we're planning to send a contractor sometime between 9 and 2 p.m. next Wednesday. Does that work for you? And hopefully you can say yes, because, you know, this takes a little time to find these contractors, because apparently it's very gruesome to go through all the paperwork process if you want to be a contractor for the county. So if you want to be someone they call to, you know, unplug the drain, they can't just look on, you know, Google it and pick the first person that, you know, does plumbing. They have a set number of contractors that have all gone through the paperwork and gotten approved. So that may take some time. So they may get your hot water heater on the month they do the pre-assessment. You might not get the hot water heater till a month and a half down the road. You know, there's typically people that do like things you would glom together. So insulation's kind of like its own animal. Then there's people that are really skilled at the mechanical stuff, like the hot water heater and the furnace. And then if they do think you need new windows, then that's like another kind of contractor that does windows. So then after all that work is done, then Roger comes to your house, or one of those people that works with him, that department, and does a post assessment. And he's going to check everything again. He's going to see how efficiently your furnace is running. He's going to make sure there's no toxic stuff coming out from your house. And he's just going to make sure the work was done correctly from whatever various contractors were in your home. He's going to check and make sure it's like A-okay. So that's the process. And from start to finish, from like talking to Kimberly, and she says, yeah, it sounds like this is a go for the guy, or there might be a gal, but so far I haven't heard of one, for the guy to come and do the pre-assessment. So from that conversation with Kimberly till, you know, they're all done, that I've been told that takes typically 3 months. So not instantaneous, no instant gratification there, but wow, you don't have to take out a loan or anything. And then I've been trying to get a test case for someone who's a renter that works, that at least like knows their landlord, like has a phone number and an email address for their landlord. Because sometimes people just have some, you know, the guy comes to their house once a month and is like, where's the rent check? And they don't even have contact information. It's a nightmare for some people. But anyway, so you have to have like contact information for your landlord. And then Kimberly and her people will actually contact them and say, hey, we could potentially do, you know, up to $10,000 worth of free work on your rental property. You know, do we have permission? And from what I understand, most landlords are like, heck yeah, I was going to have to replace that hot water heater, was going to probably blow in a year or two. So if you want to put in a new one, you know, go for it. But there is that process. There's that extra process involved if you aren't a homeowner and you're a renter. But the nice thing is, then even if you don't stay there, like the guy with the 84 or 97-year-old grandmother that I talked to today, they've lived in that house for 40 years. They've rented that house. But you might move, and then there's that rental unit available. And then the next person or couple or family moves in and they don't have outrageous utility bills. And that would, you know, that helps the whole community. And that helps reduce the terrible effects of climate change, which is another reason that we're doing this work, because we want to, you know, for the homes, which to just heat and cool and everything homes is about 40% of all the greenhouse gases that are going up into the atmosphere and causing climate change. And, you know, 50 inches of snow in Colorado in one day and craziness like that. And problems here. Anyway, it is 7:57.